Okay, guys, today we're going to talk Joe Biden and his abject failure in Afghanistan. The absolute disgrace of a withdrawal, his total inability to take responsibility for the actions that he had while trying to deflect and blame everyone else. Remember, according to Joe Biden, the buck stops with Joe Biden.
I am President of the United States of America, and the buck stops with me.
But everyone else was at fault except for Joe Biden. And we're going to tell you why that's all a lie. So watch this, because this is the stuff I'm sure the media won't tell you. Another important note. Our foreign policy elites have lied to us for 20 years. They lied to us about the progress they were supposedly making. They lied to us about the training of the Afghan security forces. And they totally botched this withdrawal. We should have been out of Afghanistan a decade ago after we killed Osama bin Laden. Joe Biden didn't want to greenlight that one. We should have made the point and gotten out. But the lesson of Biden's disaster is not that we should stay in Afghanistan forever. We shouldn't. We should have left decades ago. And most importantly, nation building doesn't work. But the rich industrial military complex in America, they made themselves super rich. These generals got on board seats for continuing a war and risking life and limb. You can see that they're incompetent. You can see that they haven't been right about this in 20 years. They had 20 years to get a plan to get out, and they still screwed it up royally. We've spent about $1 trillion in Afghanistan, $88 billion training their military to be able to take over. And the Taliban ran them over without a fight in a matter of seconds. Okay? That means our generals and national security leadership is not just incompetent, but they've been selling us a bill of goods and a bill of lies for decades to enrich themselves, to get further contracts, to ultimately get board seats on these military, type corporate institutions that fund all of this crap and want to keep it going forever, because that's the gravy train, folks. Your tax dollars into their wallets. American citizens, our great soldiers, be damned. We don't care as long as we're getting rich. It's absolutely sick. It's absolutely sick. They've been lying about the progress forever. Maybe if our generals spent a little less time worrying about our pronouns and pushing critical race theory as a way to make for a stronger fighting force and actually did their damn jobs, we would be in less of a disaster than we are now. But that's not what our military does. And that's why China and Russia are watching and laughing, because we're pushing woke policies in critical race theory, right? If the people of Afghanistan don't want to fight for our country, why should we risk American lives to fight for them? Okay? And again, with that said, it isn't the problem that we're pulling our troops out of Afghanistan. It's the incompetence of Joe Biden and the way our woke generals were doing it. They're the ones responsible for failing to properly implement a withdrawal plan that they had 20 years to get right. That's why it's so galling to see Joe Biden try to blame Trump and everyone else, right? The buck stops with Joe, except it doesn't if you listen to his speech. He blames everyone else instead of taking responsibility for their stupid and reckless actions. Trump warned them not to scrap his plans for withdrawal, but because Joe Biden wanted to take credit for bringing our troops home, they pointlessly and disastrously changed how the withdrawal was implemented, and more importantly, when, right? The differences in the two withdrawal plans. Trump was engaged in the region. He created peace in many parts of the region. Biden hasn't been engaged at all. Joe Biden has been in office for 7 months and still apparently hasn't even spoken to the Prime Minister of Pakistan, the most important stakeholder in the region. Trump had conditions based on the withdrawal. Joe Biden got rid of those conditions because he wanted to make it his own. So congratulations, Joe. You own this by yourself. And he pushed the withdrawal date back, again, for symbolic reasons. He wanted it to be September 11th purely for symbolic and political reasons. The reason that's a problem is that you pushed it into the height of the Afghan fighting season. When people aren't doing their farming, they're not doing this, they're not hiding from a rough winter, they're in peak fighting condition. According to Sean Parnell and some of the heroes that actually risked life and limb over there, there's literally no worse month to pull out of Afghanistan than August. Joe Biden also allowed our weapons and technology to fall into the hands of the Taliban. The same Biden administration that wants to limit your Second Amendment allowed for missiles, military aircraft, fully automatic machine guns, and drones to fall into the hands of the Taliban, who, even if they won't use them, will sell them to China, who will reverse engineer it and get our technology for pennies on the dollar. Okay? So, that's only happening because Joe Biden allowed it to happen. He didn't let contractors go and help the Afghan fighting forces with their aircraft or maintenance, so they couldn't get them out of there. And now the Taliban owns it. The biggest disaster of Joe Biden's withdrawal has been that he gave up Bagram Air Force Base and essentially allowed it to be taken over by the Taliban, right? He did that before making sure we got all our citizens out of the country safely. Bagram Air Base should have been the last thing we abandoned in Afghanistan, not one of the first. It's one of only 2 places you can land a plane in the country. The other being Kabul Airport, which the Taliban is basically already probably going to get their hands control of if they haven't already. Again, this wasn't something that had to happen in a withdrawal. It happened because Biden and his team didn't know how to execute anything, right? All hubris, all ego, trying to get credit, no brains, because they, the Democrats, the woke military generals, have been focused on everything other than actually the job at hand. Everything other than putting America first. Remember, guys, it wasn't too long ago, it was only about 30 days ago, where Joe Biden said that this wouldn't be Saigon.
There's going to be no circumstance where you see people being lifted off the roof of a embassy of the United States from Afghanistan.
Well, guess what, guys? When I see the imagery of what's going on, when I see hundreds trying to scramble onto either, I guess, a C-17, when I see people falling off of planes because they're hanging on as they're taking off, trying to desperately get out of Afghanistan, when I see our military is gone before the civilians, they have to then send people back in to try to get them out. You're right, Joe. This isn't Saigon. It's a lot worse than Saigon. Saigon looks like kindergarten compared to what's going on right here in Afghanistan because of you and your incompetence. Joe, you own this. If you're going to be president and not just take naps and do ice cream photoshops, it's time for you to actually lead. It's time for you to actually do something. It's time for you to take responsibility for your actions and not just hope you can be incompetent and have the media do your marketing for you. Because based on what I'm seeing, even they can't protect you now. Even they can't make you look competent now. Disgusting. Keep watching, folks, and make sure that other people see this so that they can understand exactly how much of a disaster this is.